welcome everyone. My name is Nikola Kalanowski and I'm an equity research analyst here at ABG. Today we're interviewing Patrik Höje and Annika Frey, CEO and CFO of Precise Biometrics respectively. Today you presented your Q1 results and we're here to talk a little bit about that as well as the equity issue. And with that said, I think if we start off with a very simple question that perhaps new and prospective investors would be interested in, and that is if you could just briefly explain what Precise Biometrics does in the two segments.
Absolutely. I think it's an important question as well, as quite a lot has happened during the last couple of years around Precise. I think most people, when you think about Precise, probably think about our business unit, Algo Fingerprint. That's an area where we have built up for the last 20 years world-leading competence in biometric finger image analysis. That's one of the area where we have global customers across the globe and a very strong position. The other part is a new business area for us, which we call Digital Identity Business Unit. That's an area where we have, during the last couple of years, developed and acquired two different systems. One system for access control management based on facial recognition, so you can enter physically into a building just by your face. And we also have a strong visitor management solution called East Coast, a solution that you can either use together with facial recognition or stand alone. That's also a system where we hold a market leading position in the Swedish market already today.
And what do the economics of the Algo and Digital Identity segments look like?
Yeah. Looking at Precise, we're a software company, so we don't produce hardware. Our customers in many cases are hardware companies, so that means that we in general have quite high gross margins. In the Algo business unit, the fingerprint business, we have approximately 80% in gross margins. In that area, you can say that there's a combination, that the business model is a combination of annual licensing fees, so you have a fixed fee every year, and then of royalties, so variable revenue from sold units. And in the digital identity business area, we have instead a SaaS model, an annual recurring revenue, where we're building up revenue from subscriptions. In this area we have lower margins, but it's also margins we're building up over time, so of course they will increase as the revenue increases.
I think if we delve a little bit into the Q1'23 report, I think if we start on the business momentum side, do you think that business momentum has to some extent recovered in both the Algo and really start to accelerate in the digital identity business? Do you get the feeling that it's easier to acquire new clients, or is business just the same as in Q4'22?
Mm-hmm. I think there is quite different dynamics in the two business units. Let's describe each one of them individually. Let's start with the Algo fingerprint business. In this area, as we also explained before, and I think it's important to once again explain that we saw in end of 2021 and beginning of 2022 that the big mobile manufacturers, the OEMs, they asked the suppliers to stock up, to build the stocks in the warehouse, as everyone thought we were leaving the pandemic and the semiconductor shortage. So we entered into a market, and we were entering into a market where demand would pick up. That didn't fully really happen, right? We saw unfortunately war in Europe, continued close down of China in 2022. So that combined meant that the end customer demand of mobile phones was a bit lower than expected. And these two combined then meant that in the end of 2022, the deliveries or the demand for sensors, where our software is included, was lower than expected. We also saw that in the beginning of Q1 or in Q1 this year. And as the oversupply will diminish and the end customer demand picks up, of course that's going to change dramatically, and we will see an increase on our royalty revenues. And expectation right now is in the market is H2 in 2023 and of course into 2024 of course. So that is something that will help us business back, right? In the digital identity business, then we have during this year focused more and more of the organization into our US launch of our products. We see that as a very important and interesting market. We've done very interesting milestones also during the quarter, which we also presented with partnership with Genetech and others. So that's good signs for long-term growth. And in the Swedish market, we see also really good sales, especially around East Coast, where we see clearly much more sales than last year. We also saw that in increasing annual recurring revenue, which we presented this quarter as well.
Yeah, and I think if we dig deep a bit into digital identity, we had a bit of a decline in revenues from around 6 million to approximately 5 million. But there is a reason for this decline. Could you perhaps explain in detail what this relates to?
Yes, I mean, we are moving more and more from point-in-time sales to recurring revenue. So that's why our annual recurring revenue is growing. So there has been a little bit ups and downs in the revenue before, because we have had some hardware sales, for example. But the recurring revenues are giving a better stability in the future.
Yeah, and then I suppose if we go a bit deeper into digital identity on the gross margin side, you reported, I think, around 5 million in sales in that segment, and then a gross profit of about 860K, and that implies a 17% gross margin. Now, compared to Q1'22, that has increased by 4 or 5 percentage points. How should investors perceive the unit economics and the gross margin in this segment going forward?
We have some fixed costs affecting the margin, but for like platform and R&D costs, and that will, when revenue is growing, the margins will be better over time.
Simply because the business scales.
Yeah.
And I think if we go back to some general type questions, you will have an equity raise, or you're currently in the process of raising equity, approximately 40 million in cash after all transaction costs and everything, and upon full subscription with the guarantors and everything. Could you please explain the rationale behind this equity raise and why you're doing it right now?
Of course. So I think, of course, this is a well-balanced and thought-through decision to do this rights issue or propose this rights issue. This will help us to deliver on the long-term growth plan that we presented again today. The proceeds will primarily be used sort of in priority order as well for our US launch of our digital identity business. So it's helping that part. The other part is that we also have ambitions to extend our algo fingerprint business into new verticals. I mean, today we're very strong in the mobile vertical, but also have ambitions in what we call embedded verticals, so laptops, automotives, door locks, and so on. And then, of course, to support our product development in both of these areas, as well as helping the working capital. So it's something that will help us leverage our ability to deliver on a long-term growth plan.
Yeah. As you mentioned, among the new verticals within Algo that you aim to expand into would be such things as smart door locks and automotives. What precisely, is there some kind of explanation or example that you can give of a specific type of product that we can use this within, or?
Absolutely. I think there are quite a few already in the market, right? And if I'm going to pick one, I think it's interesting, of course, the automotive area, where we see new user cases. I mean, historically, when you talked about biometrics in an automotive concept, it's been about convenience, right? I mean, where your share can be adjusted for your individual preference and so on. But what we see lately is also the payment moving into the cars. I mean, I think discussions is about 30% of the value of a car in the future will be in the softwares, right? So of course you want to secure the payment procedure around that as well. And what better way to do it than with biometrics, for example?
Yeah, considering that cars or automotive manufacturers make a lot of money within all the details, the devils in the details, you kind of want to monetize on, on all the add-ons.
Exactly.
So if we could perhaps go back to the Algo segment. Obviously, we've seen a bit of a decline thanks to overstocked OEMs and everything. And you delved a bit deeper into why there could be a recovery. So what sort of mechanism will actually trigger this type of recovery in H2'23?
Yeah. So it's actually two things that's playing in this, right? One, as we talked about, was the oversupply. So when the warehouse is diminishing their stocks, of course, then automatically the sensor manufacturers and software suppliers as us will have more royalties. So that's just one thing, right? And then the other thing is, of course, the end customer demand as well when it picks up to more normal levels. Because everyone understands that we also in the future going to have mobile phones, right? So.
And well, one of the, as you mentioned, key attractions here is the digital identity area, and you're more focused on commercializing this and further developing that segment. What is the specific attraction in the underlying market, and what would the key drivers behind this market be?
Yeah, so I think there's a few different underlying trends that play in our favor here. I think one thing is, of course, maybe the sad part is that we see an increased security in the world, and with that an increased demand for security solutions when it comes to not only logical but also physical access. It means that people, you want to have higher security, to secure that right people is within your facilities, and what better way to do that than with biometric credentials, as well as also visitor management solutions where you can have real clear track of all the temporary visitors as well in your facilities. So these combined, and in both of these areas there is an underlying expectation of growth also from independent analysts house, seeing that this is something that will grow the coming years. We also presented that in our report today. On top of this, also the market that we have decided to focus on, the US market, is also a market where the majority or the main is the biggest market, you could say, for both these type of solutions. So in that sense, it's as well as helping us.
Is there some explanation for why, except size, that the US is so interesting? Is there some form of regulatory tailwind that you can get in the US compared to other places such as in Europe? What kind of underlying factors actually make the US so attractive?
So of course, you stated one, of course, the largeness of the markets itself is of course important. But the other part is that the US is more biometric mature than Europe. You have a more acceptance and more demand around biometric solutions than we can see so far in the European market. Our expectations, of course, are going to pick up in Europe as well, but the demand is already there to a bigger extent in the US market.
And in order to commercialize digital identity, you've selected to partner with a few businesses. What has been the key reason for partnering with a specific firm? What is it that you're looking for within that partner?
So I think it's important, if you want to be able to win in a market like the US market. That's a huge market, and if you go in with a direct sales force, it's going to drive a lot of cost for the company, right? And so that's one reason why partner channels are more attractive. But there's also other sort of underlying business drivers of using partners. In the access management space, most facilities already have access management. It means that to be able to sell in new solutions, there need to be new needs or big changes, right? And what we're doing instead is that we are then complementing strong access management solutions in the market. So when you need improved security on a door somewhere, then you can add this kind of solutions, this access control to some doors, but still using Genetec's access management solution, for example. So that helps us to already today address the market.
Yeah. So you're looking for perhaps some existing customer relationship that
exactly. So that's correct. So today we are working with access management companies, but also system integrators.
And just a final question. I think if we look at 2023, it's an exciting year, and few people know where it's going. What is it that you're expecting to achieve, and what are you looking forward to do?
So I think that the plan is already set, you could say, to some extent. We are presenting the long-term growth agenda. We will keep focus on that and deliver on that one for the year. Of course, 2023 or end of 22 and beginning of 2023 is of course macroeconomics is affecting consumer electronics. But we see we hope for a pickup in the second half of this year, which help us to drive the algo business, and then also of course our digital identity business by delivering on the long-term growth as we communicate.
Well, thank you very much for this discussion, Patrik and Annika. It's been very helpful, and thank you to everybody for listening in.
Thank you.